Welcome back to another video in CLATapult's video series. Today we'll be looking at inferences, questions in the logical reasoning section, and what exactly are these questions, how to deal with them. We'll also solve a sample inference question at the end to help you understand these concepts better and for you to be able to catch on to it really well. So what are inferences? So passages, specifically the logical reasoning passages, consist of statements that can be derived from the passage itself. These are known as inferences. These statements require you to connect the dots between multiple different statements in the passage and figure out what is an information that can be derived even though it's not explicitly written in the passage. So here you're supposed to focus on the premises and the arguments mentioned in the passage and try and extrapolate or construe some information or derive some information out of them. These are generally known as inferences. So what do inference questions look like in the CLAT exam? These questions in the critical reasoning section will have stems which read such as the author of the passage suggests which of the following, or very simply, which of the following can be inferred from the passage, or for example, which of the following is implied by the author's argument. The author would likely agree with which of the following. If the statements in the passage are true, which of the following must also be true. So this is information that can be derived from the passage and must necessarily be true. If the passage makes sense, these statements should also make sense. These are known as inference questions. So let's look now at some tips and tricks as to how to deal with inference questions. Tip number 1, and the most important tip according to me, would be that inferences or the options that you choose for an inference question cannot be a mere repetition of what the author has said or a mere repetition of the information given in the passage already. If that was the case, then it would be a direct based question, right? It wouldn't any longer be an inference question. So don't make this mistake, even if the consortium or the CLAT exam tries to trick you by giving you an information already present in the passage. That cannot be an inference question. Inference options can be derived from the passage but are not explicitly mentioned in the passage. Secondly, for a claim of an inference or an inference statement to be true, it has to necessarily follow from the other claims made in the passage. It isn't enough for the information in the passage to strongly support an inference position. It must mandatorily make it true. So inferences have a high threshold and you shouldn't look if the inference is true in some of the situations. Rather, it should be true in all of the situations as demanded by the particular MCQ option. So keeping these three things in mind will help you solve inference questions with ease. Just try and read the passage properly, construe different statements and look at the inference options. Don't choose statements or the information directly mentioned in the passage. Number 2, ensure that all parts of the option have to mandatorily be true and not only strongly supported by the passage. And finally, if it's true only in some cases but not in all cases as per the option, then it can't be the right answer. So keep these things in mind and you'll be sailing through the inference questions. Now, let's quickly do an example and solve it so that we understand inference questions really well. So let's take the passage, and the same will be on your screen as well. Every door on Liverpool Street in London has a canopy, and all of these canopies are either green or red. Let's take this statement to be a statement in a particular passage. Now, while inferences that you'll get will be in passage based, it's easier to understand this when we look at statements themselves, right? So taking this statement to be true, the question asks us, which of the following must also be true? And we have 3 options. Number 1, some canopies in London are green. Number 2, if a store in London does not have a canopy, then it is not on Liverpool Street. Number 3, if a store in London has a red canopy, then it is on Liverpool Street. So we have to see which of the 3, or even if all of the 3 options can be correct inferences. Let's look at them one by one. So let's firstly break down the particular line or the passage that's given to us. Every door on Liverpool Street in London has a canopy, either green or red. Okay, that's all the information we have. So let's look at the first statement. Some canopies in London are green. Now, while we cannot talk about London generally because you don't have information there, we can talk about Liverpool Street, right? So a mistake that can be commonly made by students is assuming statement number 1 to be a valid inference. However, we do not have enough information to mark statement 1 as a valid inference. Why is that, you ask? Simply because, firstly, let's exclude the rest of London. We don't have any information about it. All the information we have is about Liverpool Street. But does the statement tell us that in Liverpool Street, canopy has to be in green color? No. The statement clearly stated that all of the canopies are either green or red. So it is very easily possible that all canopies on Liverpool Street in London are red in color. And since we don't have any other information about canopies in London, on doors in London, we cannot choose statement number 1 to be correct inference. It is possible that statement number 1 is generally true. However, we can think of one circumstance where statement 1 will not be true. The only circumstance being if every door on Liverpool Street has a red canopy. Since the statement is not true in all circumstances, but only there exists a strong sense that it might be true, we cannot choose this as an inference as per rule number 2 we discussed earlier. Let's look at the second statement now. If a store in London does not have a canopy, then it is not on Liverpool Street. Well, statement number 2, as you might have guessed it already, is a valid inference. Why? Because the statement clearly told us that every single door or store in London has a canopy. Specifically, if it's on Liverpool Street. As such, if a door or a store in London does not have a canopy, we can clearly state that it cannot be on Liverpool Street, since every single store has a canopy on Liverpool Street. So number 2 can be a valid inference because it will be true in all different situations that you can think of. Number 2, it is not directly mentioned in the passage. And finally, there's not just strong proof or inclination towards it, but it is certainly true. Let's look at the third statement. If a store in London has a red canopy, then it is on Liverpool Street. Now again, statement number 3 might be true, but it's not always true in all the different circumstances. Again, remember, we don't have any information about any other street except for Liverpool Street in London. So we can't say with certainty that no other street in London has canopies on stores and doors that are not red in color. As such, statement 3 cannot be inferred. The right answer here will be only statement 2 as a valid inference. So I hope this example and this video helped you understand the basic rules to follow while looking at an inference question and how to apply them while solving such a question. I hope this helped. I'll see you next time.